because when the time comes and you are going through the matching process, whether it's conscious or not, your partner that you're going through the matching process with will be evaluating these aspects of your life. Let's say you're really fit, but you don't have any friends. That's kind of like a warning sign. Yeah. This person isolates themselves quite a bit, and it's not a judgment. It's just a reality of like, oh, that doesn't bode well for the future, right? But let's say you're really nice and kind, but you don't have anything going on right now. You have no substance in your life. That's also not a great warning sign. Welcome back to Love Life Legacy. Whoopsie daisy. Love Life and Legacy, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate these hypersexualized times of ours. And in today's episode, Benjy and I unravel the true mystery of what it means to be successfully single. And this one goes deep. I think it was one of the most fluid podcasts we've done in a while. It just sprung out of us, uninhibited, pure, and beautiful. If you are a single person and you want to understand how to get the most out of this time prior to being blessed, prior to being married, listen. If you're in a marriage, I think it's also very helpful. And especially if you're a parent, it's super, super helpful, because we have a tendency to want to just skip to the end, especially in the West. We don't understand the journey and we kind of miss the point. We're just kind of looking for the results at the end of the road rather than enjoying the journey there. And a huge part of being in a successful, thriving marriage is becoming a thriving individual. And so that's what we unpack in detail. It's a great episode. Listen to it. Share it with your grandma. Let's get into it. Hey, sister. Hey, friends.
Single sisters and sassy people.
Sassy Sammy. We are on planet Earth today, hosted by Gravity, and we wanted to just welcome you. This episode is for all you single people, but also if you help single people, and if you're a parent. Like, a lot of people don't realize that the game that they're playing when they're single is to just survive being single until you can finally get into a relationship, right? That's like the secret thinking of most people who are single, that somehow everything's going to work out later when I'm in a relationship. And because of that, they miss out on the whole point of being single. So we want to talk about what it's like to be successfully single and how you can do that. Because there's a lot of stuff that you can do while you're single, and most of it is kind of a waste of time. But when you do focus and live with intentionality, you will be a marriageable gangster.
Yes.
You will be husband or wife of the century. We will have a parade for you because your marriage will be on solid footing.
Yes.
And most people, their marriage is on quicksand, on a sinking ship, during an earthquake, in a tsunami, in the middle of a hurricane.
On planet Mars.
Yeah. Or that, remember in Interstellar, Benjy and I tried to cry together by watching Interstellar.
We tried to not cry.
I was trying to feel something. Every time I watch it, I want to get into the state where I really feel something.
Yes.
But there's that planet where it's just like perpetual tsunamis. It's just one giant wave after the other. That's some people's marriage because they don't do this work.
Yeah. What a planet to live on, right?
That planet
Time is ticking. Time is ticking on that planet.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want you guys to be successfully single, not just sexlessly single, because that's a miserable.
That is so close phonetically, so far purposefully.
And that's what the focus of a lot of single people is I'm just a sexless person waiting to resolve all my problems when I'm finally in a relationship, and that grass is always greener over there. Yeah. But let me tell you something. I mean, I and this is not a boast, but I was, married when I was 18 years old. It's a shock for some people. For some people, it's
you're a
stupid.
freak of nature. That's all. Just say it out loud.
It's just a fact about me, and so I just like saying that. So you can imagine there have been times in my life where I was like, you know what, maybe it would have been nice to wait a little, like to have my 20s to just be single. And in hindsight, I mean, I don't think that a lot, but it's crossed my mind for sure in the last 15 years.
Sure.
It's like, yeah, it would have been nice to have some time, not to sleep around or anything like that, like a lot of people think, just to not be two people in one, just to be me. You know what I'm saying?
Independent Benji sounds like a dangerous man.
I would have been dangerous. I'm
Just
grateful.
walking around starting fights all day. That's what I picture.
Yes, that's it.
You don't talk to
I'm
me like that. I'm Benji Uyama.
Benji, flaming Benji. But it's definitely crossed my mind, and I think that there's definitely this. Like, think about it like this. We have sex drive from a very young age, male and female, from like 10 years old, 11, 12, when people start, masturbating and such. If the whole point of sex drive is just to be in a relationship, wouldn't that mean that that's when God created us, to be in a relationship when we're 12 years old? I don't think so.
Yeah, you're an idiot.
There's got to be some design as to why we have this drive, which I think culturally we're conditioned to only think the only way to use sex drive is through sex or masturbating, and that's the only destination.
Yeah, it's interesting because just because you crave sugar doesn't mean that you should have sugar. Because if every time you crave sugar, you ate sugar, hello diabetes, right? Like that, cravings don't equate to you. Oh, my body's right. It's, oh, my body's waking up to something. What's the deeper need? Because even sugar cravings, there is something there, but it's not to eat a chocolate bar. That's not the point. There is something going on. Your body's telling you something, and somebody who's ignorant to the deeper conversation will just be like, well, since my body wants it, let's just go ahead and do that then, right? And we can see that a little bit more clearly with things like food, with emotions like anger. Yeah. If every time you're angry, you punch somebody or something, then you'd be perpetually just in jail, right? I had a friend like that growing up. He was in jail a lot. Since then, by the way, this is a good case study. So he had a lot of this energy, this kind of angst energy. And growing up, he was in jail quite a bit. And we grew apart. He was like a friend on my street. One of my memories of him was, because my mom always tells me that there was a fire truck that stopped on our street for whatever reason. And he took the axe from the fire truck and started chasing me around with it. That's what kind of guy he was. But he was in and out of jail throughout his teens. But then now he is the top athlete in Canada. He's you can look him up. Actually, I shouldn't call him out like this. But he does these obstacle course races, and he's always in the top 3 every time for the past 10 years because he's funneled that energy towards, like, he's doing this not just for the fitness. Like, he also has multiple gyms. He owns multiple gyms because he sees fitness as this way of people channeling their energy and getting dividends back, right? So it's the same thing with sex. It's like when you understand that this energy can destroy or it can create, and it's just a matter of like, is it aligned with something true and lasting and something that builds and supports and like uplifts, then go that direction. But that's not how sex is used. It's so interesting that people don't see that. They can see it. I see somebody like Tim Ferriss. He's always been this really weird scenario in my mind because he's so aware of like everything that he puts in his body. And he's so calculated about the food that he eats. He's like the hacker. He the 4-hour work week. He's really good at optimizing, except the guy can't stay in a relationship. It's like he has this gaping blind spot in his concepts that he does. He's not like that with love. He's like that with every other aspect of his life. So for some reason, sexuality and love is relegated to just reacting for pretty much everybody, no matter how exact they are with the rest of their life, with their money, with their time, with their energy, with building their career. But then they just squander it all in terms of love and sexuality.
Yeah, if there's no love in science, it's just math. It's just robotic calculations. I had a personal account with Tim Ferriss's book, not with Tim Ferriss. When I read it, it was like one of the OG, biohacking, life hacking books. It was really a big deal. And so I listened to the entire book like multiple times. And there's something it did to me internally where I just like shut off all emotion and love and relationships. It became super like, what's the term?
A computer.
Like intentional and
Yeah.
and calculated. And then one of my coworkers at my parents' flower shop that I worked at, I don't work there anymore. But
Benji's got a side hustle working for his mommy.
I worked at my parents' flower shop. One of the coworkers was like, "You've been such a jerk recently." Like she just straight up destroyed me. She's an Italian, lady. She's like, "You've been such a jerk lately. I just wanted to let you know that." And then that's when I discovered that I need to stop reading this book. But it's true that if there's no like relational, if there's no intent and purpose in bringing that stuff, that intentionality into the world and community and love and connection, then it's just external. There's no internal nature. It's just external form,
Faux show. Well, that's the thing. And that's the thing is like, okay, okay, if you're single or if you are supporting somebody who's single, let's start to get into this because again, people, you work a lot with people who are preparing for the blessing. And the reason that a lot of people don't go to the blessing, or the reason they state that they think is why they're not going to the blessing is because they don't have enough money or they don't have enough foundation. They got to finish school. Like these kind of things, which are practical. But the thing, just like you mentioned, is that the more that you invest only in those practical matters, money, your career, buying a house, all this stuff, it doesn't mean that internally you're able to take care of another person. In fact, in many ways, you are becoming a more self-focused person. Even in this way of like the 4-hour work week and the Tim Ferriss world where you're optimizing your life, but for what? Right? So let's say you're able to make more money with less work, like in the Tim Ferriss book. Okay, so does that mean that you're going to be a better spouse? No. So to be successfully single does obviously, to me, like having a university degree just shows that you're able to stick with something for a certain amount of time, that you can like finish something that you start. That's all it represents to somebody like me. And if you can have some money in the bank, it means that you have some self-discipline in respect to money. But it doesn't mean anything like, I don't know if I've said this on the podcast, but when I got blessed with my wife, or while we were like deep into the matching, about to get blessed, I was like, man, I got to get a bank account because I was a missionary at that time. I gave away all my money, all my stuff, literally all my clothes, everything. And to get a bank account when you don't exist for 3 years, because at that point it was about 3 years, is really complicated. And I was like, oh my God, I'm about to get married. And I don't have a driver's license anymore. So I can't get a bank account. And I can't get a driver's license because I don't have any status. So there's like, I don't exist. So I have to go from immaterial to material. And it was fine. Because we both were in the same mindset. Like, let's start from ground zero and build up. Right? And I don't recommend that. Just like I don't recommend everybody going out and getting blessed when they're 18. Right? Doesn't work for everybody. In fact, most people it works.
I was rolling in it, man.
Yeah. You're a unicorn, Benjy. We all know that you're a unicorn. Yeah. But it's not the point. It's a part of the equation, but people think that that's the pie that they need to solve for. No, it's a small piece of a much larger pie. Are you prepared for the matching and for the blessing? And so sexual integrity and understanding yourself, what it does. So we get accused sometimes of like being hyper-focused on sex, but it's because when you have the area of sexuality really sorted out and healthy, it means that that's kind of at the top of the pyramid and it's being propped up by the rest of your life working out. If you go from being addicted to porn or just having unwanted sexual stuff in your life to being in a stable place, it means that you've done a lot of introspective work. You know yourself. You know why you run away from life sometimes, where you go, and you know how to stop doing that and how to face life. There's so much that goes into you sustaining a high level of sexual integrity that is the real preparation for marriage, right? Because it's like, wow, I don't deal well with stress. You think that doesn't come into a marriage, stress? A lot of people... I won't be stressed when I get married. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You are going to be the most stressed when you get married sometimes. You're going to want to bash your head against the wall because now you not only have your insecurities, but somebody else's insecurities compounding against each other. And if you don't know how to work through that, you are going to want to explode.
That's a very male. I was just thinking, it's a very male thing to want to bash your own head against the wall when you're angry. Women are like, no, I'd rather bash his head. You know. Yeah, dude.
It's it's the inverse of where people put their focus and attention when they're preparing for marriage. That, like they want to really lock down the externals typically
Yeah.
in order to prepare for marriage. It's like you want to have the nest. We watched this hilarious documentary called Dancing Birds. It's on Netflix. It's all about the different ways in which all the men work so hard just to get a girl. They work so hard. There's this one dude that goes to like this tree stump every day and just flexes. He just does this move where he spreads his wings and then he bobs up and down and basically does squats all day, every day, sometimes for a year or 2 years, every day. He's putting in his time just for one girl to notice him so he can plant his seed, right?
Wow.
It was really funny, but like they were preparing so meticulously their environment, right? But what's funny is even in the bird world, and I don't think there's much that we have in common with the birds, to be honest. I don't see much. I don't look at a bird often and be like, yeah, that's me, you know? But even in that world, so these guys, these birds, there's multiple cases. If you guys ever have time to watch it, we were watching it with my kids. We were laughing our butts off. It was so funny because animals sometimes are so funny. They do these dances, and the woman, if they're lucky enough to have the woman come and like check them out because their environment is clean and whatever, one bird stacks up twigs as high as he can. Sometimes they're like 3 feet high of this like pyramid of, and sometimes there's a neighbor bird that comes and trashes it because he's jealous.
Survival, yeah.
Yeah. But when the women birds do come, then they look and like, all right, I'm listening. And then the guy has to like do some stuff. And she's like really watching him to be like, okay, have you really studied? Right. And in a certain respect, that is us, is like, especially if you go properly through the matching process, your character is revealed. That's why dating is so fake, because it's just based on the externals. It's like, oh, that person's really good looking, or they're really rich, or they really look cool, or they're in a band or whatever. And so I like them. So then you start dating, and then there's nothing about the internal until much later. Whereas in the matching process, okay, there might be certain cues that you're attracted to that call you to start, but then the real thing is like when you're being checked out based on your character. And so that character stuff is what you need to work on. That's the real gift that you're giving to a relationship, is who you are, not who you present yourself to be.
I agree. I agree with you. The single greatest character trait of someone that is ready for a relationship is someone that has sexual integrity. If we're talking about soft skills, and character, there's a lot of external things. Everyone says something different, English proficiency, language, money, where they live, what their green card status is, how tall they are. That's a big one for sisters, so I'm told. But if we're talking
I'd
about
be screwed if that was the only metric.
This is a real deal for sisters.
I'd be in the category of hobbits, and the matching website. I'd be with the hobbits.
Just like literally glance over you.
I can't see him.
Dude, I didn't even see him.
Yeah.
So my point is that sexual integrity is if we were to identify one catch all, I would say sexual integrity because of the reasons you mentioned. There's an innate understanding of yourself, self-awareness, emotional mood regulation, understanding your sexual drive and your energy and how to utilize it for good, especially when you're single. Utilize it for creation, as opposed to the assumption that the only way to use this is through sexual release. Like that's just a false. That just doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
And so if somebody has sexual integrity, they have all of those checked. Like you can't beat somebody that really has their sexual energy in check and integrity with their desire, right? Integrity is your values and your vision for your life and your sexuality, and your actions are aligned with that. Bring that person into a relationship. It doesn't matter what mistakes they've made, because we all have, sexually or not. They have overcome a certain level of challenge, and they've had the grit to be able to learn the lessons necessary in what sexual integrity provides. And so I always emphasize that to single people, like you'll be a great candidate when you have sexual integrity. And when you're looking for somebody, this is what you should look at, like first, internally. Because if you focus on anything external, anything at all, you point to as being important, that can fall through very quickly in a relationship. Very quickly.
Hey, let me tell you, if you are trying to have sexual integrity and you've been struggling to do so, then we have the solution for you. Absolutely free, guys. We're still a nonprofit. The Ascend program is where you meet them. And we have groups, we've got accountability, we've got mentorship, we've got one-on-one calls, we have curriculum, everything you need to finally break free from porn and masturbation and have sexual integrity. So go to highnoon.org and you can get started with joining Ascend and quitting porn and masturbation for good this time, all right? So link somewhere down below, or check it out at highnoon.org. See ya.
And so you stimulated this idea in my brains that, so for anybody struggling with unwanted stuff, sexual integrity really starts with you getting rid of that negative stuff. These are called shadows, in order for you to, reconnect with who you really are and live in the light. But in terms of the core program, the brilliance of something like that is there's also the idea of suffering in kind of shadows that are generated by omission. So there's a lot of people that don't have sexual integrity because they're scared, mindless. They're super scared of sex, right? And they don't know how to talk about it. They don't know how to kind of be in the same room as the idea of sex. This is not good preparation for marriage either, right? That you associate escapism with sex through porn, masturbation, this kind of stuff, but also that you associate fear and negative things with sex, because now God's not a part of that either, right? So whether because I would put that in more like almost men and women. We know that men are almost like double the ratio. Like in our experience, it's really like if you have access to porn and you're a young man, you're watching it at some point in your life. It's like 100%, pretty much. But women, it seems like 50 to 60 and rising. But there's a swath of women who have not been trapped under the clutch of porn, but they are still mortified about sex because of a lot of religious kind of sentiment that sex is evil, sex is bad, and that's what's kind of trapped. And that, if that goes into your marriage, can really wreak havoc just as badly, right? It's a negative force of absence, right? Porn is a negative force of like commission, and it's a driving energy, whereas the void, having a sexual void, is like a vacuum that is like a vortex that sucks energy. So they're both negative for different reasons and different energies, but they're equally as destructive in a marriage and need to be worked out. So I think we often, even in High Noon, don't define sexual integrity to mean like just to have a really healthy, solid relationship with the idea and the concept and saying sex out loud in a healthy, respectful, God-centered way. Right? Because we get this, Benji, you know this. A lot of leaders are like, their view is that if single people hide under a rock for long enough, they'll be safe and they'll go to the blessing and everything will work out. That couldn't be further from the truth. That's not what true parents say. That's definitely not the idea of God, is that if you are afraid of sex, then you have a completely wrong concept of sex. If you're hyper-focused and using sex for selfish means, that's also wrong. But to have a healthy relationship with sex means that you can talk to your parents about it. That's totally heavenly. Talk to your friends about it in a healthy, respectful way. Sure. That's what core is all about. Is like making sure that God's at the center of your conversation, but talking robustly about this thing that's just a part of all of our lives.
Yeah. I mean, if you give someone a weapon that has never learned to wield it, they will and you give them responsibility with that weapon, they will make severe mistakes. If they're given responsibility to protect someone, but they've never been trained, then they're going to get themselves hurt and hurt other people. And that is what happens in relationships if people don't learn how to wield their sexual drive from a young age. And it's like almost, it can be seen as like a cosmic prank from God, you know? I used to think this for sure when I was a teen. Like, why the heck would I have such a strong sex drive at a time where I'm supposed to be saving myself, right? And preparing myself. It doesn't make much logical sense if you look at it from a very narrow viewpoint on what the purpose of sex is, right? It's just to procreate, it's just for my pleasure, and etc. But then in talking with people, I went through this period of like really asking a lot of folks, and the conclusion for me was that this period of my life is actually craftily, beautifully designed so that I can learn to use this energy in a good way, and then bring that training into my relationship. And when I do that, that is how things work out smoothly, because I'm like I'm not codependent and I'm not independent, but I'm what's the healthy version of it?
Interdependent or Benjy dependent.
Yes, interdependent with my wife, where we can operate our sexual drives on our own, like traveling or being separated at times, because we were separate for a while. But when we come together, it's like I can give to her and she can give to me in a better way, right? And so I feel like that's been the training. Like if I were to sum up this training ground as a single person, is just to really learn how to use our sexual drive for goodness and how God intends for it, right? And figure out what that means, right? That's part of it. Yeah.
Let's unpack that though, because I think it's widely understood, seldom practiced because of the nuance of like how do you do that? How do you use your sex drive? Because for some, it's do more push-ups, right? And there's validity to that, but that's a pretty small understanding.
I think when I ask, ask yourself, when was the last time I really didn't struggle at all with fantasy or porn or masturbation? And chances are you didn't even think about it. You weren't trying very hard. It was just a period of time where it was like months, weeks, perhaps. And then one day you woke up and you're like, well, I haven't thought about porn in months. Like, what happened? I think that's a really clear indicator that there was something occupying, someone's energy, that they really were focused on something important, something meaningful, probably creating something, working hard for something, challenging themselves. And it could be anything. Like for some people, it is fitness and workout because it's a very physical representation of growth and challenging, and it physically exhausts yourself, right? And for some people, it's more creative, like creating something musical or artistic. So for some people, it's service-based, like being a leader of some sort in a community or volunteering. Endlessly, there are options. But the point is that it's like we can't be limited to think that it's only through the destination of release, sexual release, that this can be used, because that's just silly, because then we're expecting 12-year-olds with high sex drive to have sex all the time, which is stupid and probably not good for society.
Probably, yeah. Overwhelmingly terrible is how I would describe it. So, yeah, it's an energy. I think that needs to be understood too, because here's an analogy. Like when my kids don't go outside enough during the daytime, invariably, definitely, absolutely, right before bed, they're going to start running around and wrestling each other and screaming. Last night, it was in the form of stomping around and screaming. And they all had winter gloves on, and they were all like security guards beating each other up. That was the game that they were playing. This is like right before bed. I was like, oh, guys, you just didn't get this energy out. So here it is. It gets stored up, right? And if you don't expend it and use it and kind of temper yourself and put it at a reasonable level, it's obviously going to turn into something like this. And so sexual energy, too, is kind of like it builds and it builds, especially when you're young. You have all these hormones that you don't understand, and it's hard to control. I don't even know if you can control. I don't know if there's any evidence that, especially in high school, that you can, like, as a healthy person, control your hormones. There's obviously ways that they're doing hormone blockers on young people, which is a travesty because it completely messes up who you are as a person, and like the natural flow of things. But as a healthy young person, your hormones kind of pop up every once in a while, and you get this energy, right? And it's kind of like, if you give and take with them, then they take control of you, and then you are your hormones. But also, if you get out and you walk around, if you talk about them, if you find ways, like you said, to do art, do something creative, then you'll see that it redistributes this energy in a way that creates life and then gives you back beauty. And that's the principled thing, is that when you focus on something pure and beautiful and you give yourself to it, it looks more like you. Like you, let's say, do a painting and you love that painting. It feels beautiful to look at that painting. Then it gives you this sense of beauty. Like, that is beautiful because of me, and that means that I'm beautiful. So you start to have this interaction with the world that's really positive. Whereas if you waste that energy through porn and masturbation, the feedback loop that you create is, I've failed, and you've given your energy to something that doesn't reflect who you want to be. So now you're creating this dark chasm, this void in your life that just reminds you of who you don't want to be. Rather than creating something beautiful, it could be relationships too, like investing in other people. And they're happier because of you, and that makes you happy because it represents something beautiful, like a beautiful relationship. So how you use that energy is basically how you expend it. And if you don't use that energy at all, it stores up and it stores up until something weird happens. This is when you really go to a dark place, or you do something violent, or you just are so angry all the time and you don't know why. It's because there's too much stored energy, and that's not good for the physical world and batteries or anything like that, but it's also not good for humans. And we have many different sources of energy, but the most potent that we know of is sexual energy, because it's what drives so much in terms of war, but also innovation. And it's like, it's really powerful. It's what perpetuates life on planet Earth, is this sexual energy. So you have to learn that if it comes to you, if it visits you, this energy, you need to put it somewhere where it will create beauty, not death.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that male bird you were talking about. What is it called? What do we call this bird?
Oh, I forget what they were called, but it was a spectacular looking bird. He was doing a great job.
Tropical, some kind of tropical, colorful bird, right?
I think it was in New Guinea.
Okay, yeah, they have tons
the
of birds.
forest in New Guinea.
So this New Guinean bird is investing a lot of its time to creating an environment that it's, for mating, for finding its partner, right? And so it's kind of a beautiful metaphor for what we can do with our energy. It's like, it's not just the act of sex that we're looking for. It's where our soul is looking for an opportunity to create an environment, to invest ourselves. And that comes in. And if you think like that, then all of a sudden going to the gym is part of your preparation for marriage. Right?
Sure.
Eating healthy is part of creating the environment, creating the system through which you can find someone and find, the right person. Everything, doing your work in High Noon, joining your program, it all becomes part of the collective driver towards the core of the universe, like sexuality, bringing two becoming one through the act of sexuality.
Yeah. I mean, so there's this one bird that it's crazy. Like, it's hard to imagine that this actually exists, but he works so hard to create a absolutely perfect home. And if any leaf comes, he chucks it. He just picks it up with his beak and he chucks it. It's the most amazing thing ever, right? So he keeps a spotless home. And then finally, when the woman visits him, there is a circuit of 7 things that he does in a very particular order. And she looks and evaluates each one of these steps, of these 7 steps that he does. It involves dancing. It involves, oh my God. So he was doing it. He was on like step 3, and this other guy comes in, because there's only one lady in the neighborhood, and this other guy comes in and he starts yelling and creating a ruckus. I was like, ah, ah. And so the other guy the guy who was doing the dance was like, oh crap, this guy's here. And so he started to lose focus, but he's like, no, focus, focus. And then other guys started coming. And then all of a sudden there's like 4 guys that are like, kind of like trying to distract him and trying to get the woman's attention. But the woman's really looking at him, right? And at some point, he does this thing where he picks up a leaf and he shows it to everybody. And he basically tells them, this is my home. And the other guys look at it, he's like, yo, he's got the leaf. We got to go. And they fly away, right? And so, but at that point, at least the way that the documentary made it, he was like, it was a difference between him giving up. And this is like a character thing, him giving up or him like owning it. So he picked up that leaf with confidence. It's like, yo, this is my home. And then they all left. And then the woman's like, okay, so what you got? Because now it was back to him. And he flew back up because the next step was for him to go on the same branch as her and like do this kind of weird kind of dance. And he went in the wrong place. He's supposed to be below her to show respect, but he went above and she wouldn't look at him. And then he's like, yo, I think I'm screwing up. And he's like, oh, wait. And he flew quickly down below her and then he got back into it. And she ended up choosing him, right? He did all, but this is such a good metaphor for like when you're single, sometimes you feel really puffed up and you're doing things well, but sometimes life tests you, right? And other people make fun of you or they say you're doing the wrong thing. But if you're really focused on God and becoming your high noon self, your Chanuguk self, and you really are not proving it to anybody else other than yourself. You're just becoming who you need to become. You will pass the test. And there's so many detractors. There's so many distractions, right? But this dude passed the test and he got the lady and he made a baby. Nice. He did it.
That's awesome.
But it's encouraging to know that, like, to be successful, and why I bring that story up is because there's 7 steps, and they recorded this bird practicing each of these steps for like months and months and months prior to her arriving, so that each one was perfect. And it's not about perfection, but it's crafting, imagine 7 areas of your life to be successful by your measurement, by your standards. In these areas of life, it could be school or work. It could be fitness and exercise. It could be your spiritual life. It could be your relationships with other people, right? But looking at the main pillars of your life that you would want to have be really successful, because when the time comes and you are going through the matching process, whether it's conscious or not, your partner that you're going through the matching process with will be evaluating these aspects of your life. Let's say you're really fit, but you don't have any friends. That's kind of like a warning sign. Yeah. This person isolates themselves quite a bit. And it's not a judgment. It's just a reality of like, oh, that doesn't bode well for the future, right? But let's say you're really nice and kind, but you don't have anything going on right now. You have no substance in your life. That's also not a great warning sign. So I think it's a good metaphor, like 7 areas. Maybe that's too much. You can pick the number. It shouldn't be too much. Like 12 seems like way too much.
Yeah.
12 gates. I mean, 2 is too little. So somewhere in there, that's like enough of the main areas of your life that you would want to be doing really well in. Not perfect, but you have a lot of momentum and intentionality over. And sexuality being numero uno, I would say.
Yeah, I would say too. There's an interesting thing. If I've done this a few times with ChatGPT, and then a few times where it failed, but ask ChatGPT, what is the number one thing that single people believe they need in order to be married? And it would say, in the top 3, it would say financial security.
Always money. Yeah.
And then a follow-up question, ask it, what do actual married people say is the most important thing to be ready for marriage? And it will not be financial, right? And so there's this general, like,
what is it, fashion? What would they say?
Fashion. Communication, like being able to communicate through difficult things.
Being a functional, healthy person.
Well, the point is that in reality, when people are actually married, it becomes more internal focused, soft skills. And when you are preparing, the perception is that it's hard skills, like being able to make money and how much money you have saved and this kind of thing, which is understandable from a like survival perspective, but we don't live in that time now. And so it's just a very interesting thing that I think we should observe, because if you have your 7 things, people, probably one of them for a lot of people is going to be financial related, which is fine. But that's why it's important to make the purpose of financial security for love and relationship and connection,
Hey, I like that.
and not for the vanity or some weird belief like I have to. You know what I'm saying? Because then we get in territory of like, oh, I have to be able to make this amount of money before I get in a relationship. Says who?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
be intentional about that. Like, you can have a goal, absolutely, but like for me, I mean, the only thing I had when I was blessed was sexual integrity. That's all I had, and faith.
He didn't even have a
Nothing else.
shirt.
And a shirt and a suit for the blessing, like nothing else. Fundraise my way to, pay for the blessing fee. That was all the money I had. I gave 10% to our church, and that's all I had, like, going for me. But because I had that, I guess, like, the characteristics of someone that has sexual integrity is I was willing to, like, just do whatever it takes to keep improving and keep failing and improving and committing to growing through whatever process we had. But absolutely nothing saved up, absolutely no job prospects. I was a second year, community college student at the time. Didn't have a decision on what I was going to major in. In my application, it was, for the matching, the blessing.
It was ballet, wasn't it?
Application. It was all undecided, every single thing. Undecided, 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 undecided. And then it was a picture of me, like, all smiley,
I'm
age
undecided.
18 years old. And then it asks if you have a preference for international matching, and I put no. I still have that piece of paper.
How did you wind up with a totally international wife?
Well, here's the thing. When it asks if I have a preference, my thinking was, I don't have a preference.
I see.
I don't. Like, yes or no, I don't care. But if you read it again, it's like, do you have a preference for international matching? And I put no. I think what they were asking is, do I want international
Yeah,
matching?
poorly phrased question.
Yeah.
I could
So it's
alter
totally what
the
I got.
course of your life.
Yep. Totally what I got.
Yeah, that's outstanding. I love that. This idea that you could take somebody who's truly wealthy, not rich, like somebody who's inherited a bunch of money, but somebody who's built an empire, and you can strip them of that empire and they will rebuild it. There's a statistical reality, like the 80-20 rule is that if you, like this whole idea of socialism and communism, not to get political, is if you rip away money from the rich people, in a natural environment, it'll always end up back with them. Why? Because they're the ones that understand how finance works, right? So they're always going to end up back with it. And so to build that foundation is like, what is your 80-20 rule? What do you want to be really great at? And like Benjy was saying, if you have the foundation, it'll come. You're right. Like, wealth is a mindset, and wealthy people have certain thinking, and they will build wealth. I mean, Benjy and I know people like that it's not because they're so lucky and money just follows them. It's because money appreciates them because they don't know what to do with it, because they have the right thinking and the right building. But the same thing is true of love. And if you study about spirit world, stuff like that, they want to bet on the person who's going to live with integrity. Like, if you make a condition and you're like, I'm totally going to do this, but you don't do it, then spirit world's like, yeah, he doesn't believe in himself. And you stop believing in yourself. You start building integrity, and spirit world will follow you. Your life will start to open up for you, right? So these intangibles, when you build them, are the foundation for a wealthy life. Not money, but having the characteristics of a wealthy person. And that's being generous, being loving, having gratitude. This makes a person truly wealthy in like an infinite sense, not in a finite resources sense. And that's what you would want to be. And that's honestly, it was the first date I went on with my wife, okay? We were in New York City. New York! I was living in 43rd Street, no money to my name, living off of food in 43rd Street. But I actually had a personal chef because that was part of the deal. But it was pretty sweet. But I had nothing. I went out on a date with my wife, and as we were going to the restaurant, I was like, I don't have any money, right? Like, I got no money. I hope that's okay. She's like, it's okay. money follows me. I'm rich. And I was like, wait, what? And I got so excited because I'm like, yo, I just got matched with a rich girl. I'm going to be easygoing. And then I found out she has no money, but she has extremely wealthy heart and mindset. And that's put our family in such a great position because no matter where we are in the world, and we travel a lot, or where we are at with money, because we've had some highs and lows, we're always wealthy because of her mindset. Because she's a kind, generous, loving person. That's what makes her wealthy. And I'm sure you've met them, rich people who have no love in their heart, who are just like, get out of my way. You know, these kind of people is like, you're not, you got money, but you ain't rich. You po. You po. So yeah, it's finding out to be successfully single means figuring out what it means to be mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically wealthy. When you start doing that, you become a wealthy person who can have all the abundance of God's green earth, right? And we always associate that with like just millions of dollars or whatever, but that means that everywhere you go, you can find peace. And in your own relationship and in your own body, you can find peace. Because there are wealthy, like Harvey Weinstein owned Hollywood. I was just watching something that was like a Weinstein production. I was like, they used to do everything, he and his brother. So they had these wealthy executives. But he would just use his power to sexually abuse people, and now he's in jail. He lost everything because he had nothing, right? Yeah. But imagine he used that wealth to uplift people and take care of people. He would have true wealth, right? So, yeah, generosity, gratitude, these kind of things make a person spiritually abundant.
Yeah. Wealthy and single.
Yeah.
You guys can be successfully wealthy singles.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that, so like having finite resources is a mindset, like wealth is a mindset, but I also think it's a skill too that wealthy people generate. Like people,
sure, it's a discipline.
It's a skill of resource allocation. So if you give a wealthy person 10 grand, they will know exactly what to do with it. They won't think about it. They're just like, I know exactly where this goes. If you give a wealthy person time or more energy, they'll know exactly how to use their attention. They'll know exactly how to use difficult situations or how to deal with them. Right? That's resource allocation. So I think it's entirely possible to develop that skill of wealth as single people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I hope we gave you a lot to think about. This is a conversation that we started, especially with Core and David Hewish. David Hewish started giving talks that he and I co-created about being successfully single. But it's something that you can define. We're helping you to define it with these conversations, but it's ultimately up to you to define what success looks like. But if you're not trying to be successfully single, then chances are you're just trying to stop being single so that you can be in a relationship. And you're missing the point. You can't skip ahead and be okay because you're skipping the actual work. Is learning how to love being you and to be a resource to influence your environment positively rather than to have your environment dictate how you feel. And that's somebody who has the first blessing in order to segue into the second blessing. You're not dependent on external cues in order to feel a certain way. You're decidedly a person of intentionality. Like, I am this person. I'm going to practice being this person. Regardless of my circumstance, I'm going to continue being this person because that's who I'm committed to being. That is so powerful when you move into the blessing. Because then two people like that, like you said, interdependent, they're like, this is who we are. This is what our blessing is. This is who we're determined to be, and they will be okay, especially if they have a foundation actually being that.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your everything. God bless you.
Thank you. Let's do
your
it.
Everything.
Hey guys, there are a lot of nonprofits and fundraisers out there, but High Noon is something special, don't you think? If you want to contribute to something, if you've wanted to give back in some way, then look no further because High Noon is your place. We're still a nonprofit, guys, and our programs and our events and workshops really run off of you. So please consider becoming a donor. Actually, no, become a donor, please, my friend, especially if you've benefited from this podcast, which is totally free, and our programs that are totally free. Then go to highnoon.org/donate, and you can become a donor for just $10 a month, or $20 a month, or $1,000 a month, whatever your wallet can do, and whatever you want to give back and contribute. All right, become a donor, join the club, and see you.